Hi, I'm Rob Patz.
And I'm Kristen Stanton.
And this is the Rob and Kristen Show. Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Rob and Kristen Show.
And happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans out there. And I just want to say a special happy Veterans Day to my dad.
Yes, and to all my relatives who served or are currently serving in active military, thank you so much for your service. We appreciate you more than you know. And today's edition is going to be really fun for me because we get to talk about the Navy SEALs, the CIA. It's going to be a lot of fun. Jimmy Graham is with us. He's got a great company called Able Shepherd, and we had so much fun getting a chance to interview him. Hey, this is going to be an exciting interview. And I'm smiling because this is my kind of stuff. This is going to be a good one.
I thought you were for sure you were going to say something like, and we're not the big talking heads, and that's
we're
how
not the big heads.
Yes.
By the way, merch will be available at some point on our website for the big talking heads because we've shrunk ourselves.
This is what I love, even just before we even get to talk to our guest today. I love the fact, and I know you can't really see mine, but we are both wearing sweaters that have the American flag on it. And, you know, to me, that's awesome. We just had the privilege of being able to vote. And now it's Veterans Day. And hey, you know what? We love our veterans.
We do. And this guy is really cool. I've been pumped. His agent, and I was like, I couldn't say yes fast enough. And so we're going to bring him on. Jimmy Graham, and his story is so cool. And just like his stuff, I mean, he's a Navy SEAL and a CIA protective officer, something you don't hear very often. It's obviously why I stumbled over it. But two things that he has done besides that, though, and we're going to talk about it today. He started a company called Able Servant, and that is something that's very neat. Jimmy, it's good to have you here on the Rob and Kristen Show.
Good to be here. Thanks, guys. So
tell me first and foremost, and I want this to kind of, I always start off with something funny if I get to do the interview. So your favorite meal when you were in the Navy was?
Okay, let's talk about SEAL training. So buds, anything. My favorite meal was anything. Like you people say like, hey, did you, how much weight did you lose because of movies and all that kind of stuff? You could eat anything and plenty of it, and you cannot lose weight. So sweets, I think that's where I at least empowered or enabled my sweet tooth, because you burn so many calories every single day. It doesn't matter what you eat. You just need fuel.
So what's your favorite sweet?
Favorite sweet would be my daughter's cookies. She's listened to mom, listened to grandma. I don't know what she does extra, but she makes unbelievable chocolate chip cookies.
It's the love.
It's the love. It is. It is my Sarah Grace. She makes amazing chocolate chip cookies.
Since we're celebrating Veterans Day and you are a veteran, what made you decide in life, because you had to enlist, what was, give our viewers kind of the, you know, where it was a family thing, because you've told us off camera that it was a family thing, but what made you pick the Navy and why did you decide to enlist?
That is a great question, because a lot of people don't know this, and you made the joke about the Marines and all that. I originally enlisted in the Marine Corps. I needed, my brother's a Marine, and they always look for the little brothers, and they're like, hone in. And I was like, okay, let's do this delayed entry program. I was kind of a wild child. I got in some serious trouble, and I needed to come out of the delayed entry program just to get my act together, to get my extra credits for graduation and all that before I could even enlist in the military. It wasn't necessarily jail or military, but it wasn't far from it, right? It was like, you need to get your stuff right. You need to make a decision and grow up right now, or you got some real consequences coming. But there was also the time it took to get that fixed. And I had to grow up really quickly. And then I went and talked to everybody. So once I was discharged from the delayed entry program through the Marine Corps, I actually took a second on good mentorship and went and talked to everybody, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, even Coast Guard has an entries team thing. I talked to everybody, and it was actually an Army guy, I wish I knew who it was, who was honest enough to say, everything you're passionate about sounds like SEALs. I'm like, what are SEALs? I mean, there's a movie out there. And he kind of just explained it because of my passion for like the water. I feel like I'm called to the water, called to the ocean. I was a lifeguard in middle America, right in Kansas City, Missouri. Something about the ocean is, and he's like, man, you might want to talk to the SEAL teams, which is not typical for recruiters, right? Went in and asked the Navy recruiter, can you tell me about the SEAL teams? He didn't really know, pulled out a packet. And when I read that packet, I'm like, yeah, I'm in. You got me. You had me at hello, right? Even like it's almost impossible to get in. I'm like, all right, there's my challenge. I needed discipline. I needed some structure, and I needed to grow up. And I did.
So I've got a question for you. And this is something all of my military family believes in. So I'm going to ask you the question. My family all believes that everyone should serve because of the discipline side. And what's your feeling on that? Not for your daughter, obviously, but for what do you think in general? Do you think we should all, I know they do that in Israel. So
yeah, I think I truly believe if it got to a state, not with a gun. So I'm in that line of work now, and not everybody's cut out to touch a gun. And I mean that, like most people can with proper instructions. Some people, they just don't have the respect for it. They don't have that proprioception. Where's my hand? Oh, it's pointing at your face. They just don't have it, and they could find another job, right? So I think some kind of service would not be a bad idea. And that's a good question, because I used to have the automatic answer of yes. And as soon as you ask me, and I've got 4 children now, I've got actual human beings to put in that, man, I'm still leaning towards yes in some capacity. I think there is something to having skin in the game, because as you know, the military, there's pretty much any job you can think of, the military has that. So I think in some capacity to serve initially, maybe not for a 4-year stint, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
So do you run your house like a boot camp?
It's funny, as you may or may not know through marriage counseling, everybody assumes that vets turn into like Major Payne, like a drill instructor. It's so not that. But I think that the world is leaning everybody into such a place to where if you have integrity, meaning a steadfast adherence to a strict moral or ethical code, and that code is the Bible, it's going to cause some conflict in your home, right? As long as I don't abuse that, right? To be like, I'm the leader, I'm the whatever. There's a lot of conflict. I just left talking to a pastor buddy of mine, and we went deep on this. And sometimes it's just, no, you stand. There's certain things you give on, and there's certain things you don't. So this isn't a vote. You go in there and say, this is what we're going to do as a family, is we're going to meet every Sunday, and we're going to put the phones down, and we're going to do all that. And I don't feel called by God to give on that, but I'm not going to be a dictator. So no, not boot camp, but I do like being punctual. I encourage that. Okay, I guess we're getting up 30 minutes earlier for church so we could aspire to be on time. So there is some structure, but I'm very careful to not fall into that stereotype.
Okay, and before Kristen asks her question, which I saw, I have a great follow-up.
I've been waiting to ask a question, but go ahead.
So your kids, if there's going to be discipline, would they rather have you give out the discipline or your wife?
I think they would rather my wife do it, but I'm the one that does it, right? So it's such a balance, and in no way, shape, or form am I saying anything negative about. She's a nurturer, and that's such a blessing to our home. And she's, we aspired to do you raise the children, and I'll go figure this out financially. And now we're in a spot where she just wants to be with those kids, so she serves, in the office for pay, just keeping an eye, because schools are just, you got to watch them close, and she does that. So we've moved out of that phase, but we've just been blessed to have one of us full-time raising those kids. And if she needs a break, then I'm back in and all that stuff. But we just had this happen recently, and we're blessed with amazing kids. But, my son parents got to sign this thing because he was acting up and speaking up and cutting out of line. And I totally get it. Like, you mean you're a boy? They're like, what's wrong with him? He's 11 and he can't sit still. He's 11. That's what's wrong with him, right? So I'm like, I'll sign the thing, but then I got to put on my stern face and be like, you are not part of the problem. You're part of the solution. So you're losing any device for a week. Why do you a week? Because it's that big a deal. And next time it's worse. So do I need to come with you to school to apologize, or can you handle that? Because you're going to apologize. Well, to who? To anybody who was a part of this, anybody who gave you those little checks this week. And he did, but it's respectful. And, my wife can do it. Right. But it's like, it's that whole, Mom's got her guidelines, but don't let dad hear about it. I don't spank my kids. I'm like, hey, Christian, can you take out the trash? And he's still on the device. I'm like, Christian, he's out of his seat, right? Because dad doesn't give you 3 times, right?
Right. So I have a couple of questions. One of the things that you had mentioned early on before you enlisted, you said you were kind of at that place where it wasn't really jail or enlisting, but it was close. So was there a point in time after that that you really connected with God and it changed kind of the trajectory of your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Saved it. I'm guessing 10 years old, meaning Antioch Bible Baptist, Kansas City, Missouri, walked up, said the words, everybody cried, we all hugged. I believe that was real, but a 10-year-old can't understand the magnitude of what just happened. I believe that going into high school and into the SEAL teams, I lost my mind, and my grandmother's prayers not only kind of led me through that, but saved my life. Like, I've been moved out of places kind of inexplicably, like it's hard to explain. I was here, then I was here, and these guys didn't make it. You know what I mean? So there's just stuff when you look backwards, can't see it going forward, you see it going back. And then something was calling to me prior to me. Let me think. I left active duty. I was still in the active reserves, deployed on to South America, also working for the CIA. And I started asking questions and searching for something with a buddy of mine, Gary Ellis. And we just talking, talk after talk after talk, usually with, a beer or something harder in the hand and, out by a campfire or something. And we just didn't have the answers. And I walked into a church and it's like the guy had the list. He was just going down the list and answering the questions. And I'm like, this is weird. I would now know to say that was a Holy Spirit experience, and everybody else just disappeared, didn't matter. And this guy is checking off my list like it's creepy. And that kind of hasn't stopped. So that was a long time ago, and it was a beautiful thing. And then I wanted to know more, signed up for Liberty University online using the GI Bill. So I would be with the CIA in places like Lebanon or Libya or wherever, studying the Old Testament. So I'm sitting there writing a report. I'm like, this, you can't make this up. But I think like a lot of people, like a lot of veterans, I needed a real life to compare this to. Not a bunch of Sunday school that I didn't really know was true. I was 30 something when I realized David and Goliath, that's a real story. And it's in my lineage. That'll give a man purpose. You're like, wait a minute, I'm in the story? Nobody ever told me I was in the story. I'm like, my life's an action adventure. Then all this makes sense. Like, there's the book of Jimmy Graham is being written right now. It's going to be a good one. And now I have purpose again. Men losing their purpose, anybody losing their purpose is dangerous, dangerous talk.
So has warfare, being involved in that, has that shed a light and a different kind of understanding of what it's like to go through spiritual warfare, or vice versa?
Yes, it's kind of like the light comes on, it all makes sense. And I wish I would have known then. Like, I wish I would have known. I wish I'd have been a strong enough man. And it sounds funny because you're like, oh, Navy SEAL strongest. I wrote a book about this. It's called The Return of Man. America's only hope is in our original hope. And people say, oh man, I go, no, Jesus. Like, I wish I would have known. One of the chapters is called The Lie of Valhalla. When somebody went to toast one of our dead buddies into Valhalla, I wish I would have been mature enough to say, does anybody here believe in Valhalla? And then everybody says no. How about we don't try to honor with a lie? How about we honor with the truth? So how about we live our lives better so we can see Lance in heaven? That's a good toast. I wish I would have said that out loud, because what did you just do to the guy that doesn't know what to believe? I guess we're believing Valhalla. And you just killed him eternally by honoring a dead buddy with a lie. Like, that just doesn't add up for me, right? So if I'd have known that, and now you can't go backwards. So you say, okay, from now on, I'm done with the Valhalla lie. And then the next lie, and the next lie, and the next lie, because somebody's got to be the adult in the room and say, hey guys, do we believe this to be true? No? Then what is true? I'll start. And then you say, I just want to do what's right. Oh, you mean righteous? Well, I didn't mean that. Well, that's what it means. So let's go with your definition. Oh, you don't have one. Let's go with mine. You don't want to be a good guy. Well, that means godly. So well, that's not what I meant. Well, that's what I meant. That's what it means. So until you come up with a definition, let's go with mine. That's a leader. That's a man. That's a spiritually mature woman. And we're missing that.
So I've got one more question that I want to ask, and then I'll let you ask a question. Okay, Rob? So freedom. Let's talk about freedom. I mean, we're celebrating Veterans Day. So what does freedom mean to you as a Christian? And then what does freedom mean to you as a veteran?
The older I get, I'm 51 years old, and I don't know why I never saw them as one. I do now. They mesh together, meaning freedom, patriotism, all of the like beauty. These words mean so much more at 51 when I'm blessed with a family, right? I tell people I am 10 times the patriot that I was back then. Back then I was a patriot, obviously. I'll sign the blank check because it's kind of risky. It's kind of dangerous. It's kind of all that. And it was a cool job. I said I've had two of the sexiest jobs in the world, being a Navy SEAL and being a CIA protective officer in places like Benghazi, Libya. Super cool. And then I had for a single guy with no kids. Then it starts losing its luster because I never signed up to be that dad that was gone. You know, I never signed up to come in and take the reins and overlead and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, there's something way bigger than all of this. So whenever you see, you know, when you start calculating, because you got a lifetime to process it, the buddies that aren't alive anymore, you know, whose job is it to guide, to lead? I say shepherd. Able shepherd means capable teacher, leader, and protector. So if I'm going to do that, what does that mean? It means that I have to model it first. Like you can't teach what you don't truly live. So I have to live that. And in this country, I am free to live that, right? So I am, and you respect that there's people out there that'll go overseas and everybody, doesn't matter what your job was. Everybody signed that same check. I don't know what you're going to do with me, but you can have it all. I trust you enough in this government to you pick where I'll go and I'll go. But I need that to be a just cause. And that's a problem today with some of the things that they're asking, the way they're leading our military. And that's a weak military is a death sentence for a nation, you know. But when you start talking about freedom and patriotism, you start to see how actually, and I don't remember using the word beautiful unless it was for a woman, right? And that's appropriate, right? But there's so much beauty and you missed it because you were busy with a head full of lies. And like it is absolutely beautiful to see my son being kind to his little sister. It's actually beautiful that my older girls, 17 and 15, are bold, but they'll allow him to feel like a little man because they know I'm raising a man. Like all this stuff is beautiful. It's beautiful that and this sounds silly, but I was a chaperone in Washington, D.C. for a bunch of 8th graders. And we were standing in line, hundreds, maybe thousands of people are standing in line. And I go, do you understand what kind of discipline it takes to stand in a line? Do you understand that overseas, there are no lines? If there's a place to fit, you get up there because it's all about you. So we're actually respecting each other because they got here first. And that's the beauty of a line, you know? So it's if you're not seeing beauty in God's creation, you ain't looking.
I love that. Hey, you mentioned about Able Shepherd, and I want you to kind of give everybody the kind of the helicopter view overview of what Able Shepherd is, because I've got a couple questions. So
yeah, no, thank you for that. And it's that's such an amazing answer because it's totally opposite of what I thought it'd be. I thought I was going to teach police and security guards and responsible citizens, and it just didn't work that way. I just went out and said, hey, you know, kids are important. I'm a dad now. I'm going to hand my kids to like a security team, or the police are going to show up and all that. And I just trusted that there was a response, like a professional response. Like this isn't hard stuff from being a bodyguard and doing all that stuff. There's a way to do this. It's uniform, safe, and accurate, right? And then the more I looked into that room, it wasn't. So I started helping, and then police didn't come, security guards didn't come, people came, like dads and grandpas, and then their spouses, and then their families, and it got to be big enough to where now security guards start calling. Like all the churches now have security teams. Unfortunately, it's necessary, but you must do it right. This isn't a small thing. Having a gun in a church is not a small thing. You need to show me that you can do this, or you simply don't get a gun. So that's what it started as, is what I would say now as able meaning capable, shepherd meaning teacher and leader and protector. Well, protection from what? I would say destruction. Well, what are you talking about? What kind of destruction? And in order, spiritual, mental, and physical. So they came in to battle physical destruction, protect somebody with a gun. It's my duty to remind them that spiritual warfare and mental health are way more, they're more important. Physical might become more immediate on a horrible day, but the other ones are more important. And you want to go after that too. And overwhelmingly, the answer was yes. Yes. How am I more spiritually healthy? Well, where would you go if you died today? I'm not sure. We must start there. We must, right? So if you're a teacher and a leader, you're leading your family where? Because there's only two answers. It's time to face that and pick a side, right? If you're crazy, endowed with mental health, you can't raise mentally healthy kids. You just can't. So let's get stronger. Let's get smarter. Let's find out. And that hinges off the first answer, by the way. And then physical protection. It is your duty to protect children. How do I know? Because you're an adult. It's every adult's job to protect kids. Maybe not with a gun, but possibly with a gun. So let's talk about that, right? So that I can't believe what I get to do on a daily basis. It's insane. I get to go in the mountains on adventures with a bunch of kids. And if somebody falls over, we pick them up. And if their bike breaks, we fix it. And if somebody needs it, whatever. It's like, it's easy to say to take care of one another. That comes from John, love one another. But that's our motto, take care of one another. It's easy to say it, but it means a lot more when I just did in the mountains. Like you fell over in a creek and with your motorcycle. I picked you up. I got it off of you and we got it started again. Okay, I'm your guy. I'm there for you, and vice versa. And our kids get to watch. So it's beautiful.
So one of the things that you had said earlier when you said, "Hey, I'm going to enlist and I'm going to sign on the dotted line and what I have is yours," and that's the same concept. I think that when we give our lives to Christ, we have to have that same mentality of, okay, God, what I have is yours. Now I'm going to go anywhere. And this is what I say. I'll go anywhere that you want me to go, and I'll do anything that you want me to do. And of course, the idea that we have in our mind is not always necessarily the same plan that God has for us. But when you say that, then you also enter into a different level of spiritual warfare. And you were talking about that. So for those people out there that are watching that are kind of maybe on that edge of, I feel like God is pushing me to do X, Y, or Z, and knowing that what they have to face, how can you help them prepare themselves for what might be coming?
Especially veterans on Veterans Day, I would consider my entire enlistment as boot camp. Like that was a warm up for real service. When I took that oath, it was for life. Like, to protect this nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and now, especially now with domestic. I didn't take it for my active duty, quote unquote, active duty time. I took it for life. I'm more active now than I ever was while I served in the military, right, for this nation. So it's like, well, how do you start that? Well, you start with the heart inside your chest and work outward. Then it's to your family, then it's to your community, then it's to the nation that I love. And they already pre-qualified for the first part. You know what it's like to commit, like to a real commitment. So that would be almost like the earthly father and the heavenly father. That military thing was honorable, but it wasn't perfect. Would you commit to a perfect enlistment, right? One that where it won't end. It will be for eternity, not for 4 years, 8 years, or for 25 years or whatever, for eternity, right? So that's just such a beautiful picture of that. And that leadership, when you signed on that line and you took a step forward, man, that's a rare thing. Like in this day and age, that's a rare thing that you would commit to that and then back it up. So you're already conditioned for this, but are you really ready for commitment? And then everything gets better, not easier. It gets better, right? And sometimes it's not immediate. It's like, okay, I don't even know what I'm doing, but he does. And I'm following him. And this is how I shepherd, because I can't make you do anything. I'm going, you're invited. Like I'm just going towards healthy. I'm just going toward I want to be like Jimmy. I want to follow Jimmy. Well, you're not following me. If I stepped aside, you're following that guy, right? I don't know what I'm doing. That's just the truth, right? It's like, I'm just following him and it ain't easy. But if you see me fall down, please pick me up. But if I'm off the path, please don't follow me, right? Please help me get back. And that's just a beautiful thing. And veterans, again, they signed up for this action adventure and sometimes they didn't get it. But once you find out that it's every single day, you're like, man, this doesn't get any better. I'm a part of the greatest story that's ever told, and it's a true story. Like you won't be sitting down much.
That's awesome. Hey, listen, I have a question for you.
Please.
So when your kids talk about you in the future, a long time from now, because you're young, Jimmy, but what is the one thing you want them to say and that resonates in their life? What is the one thing you want them to say about you?
He had left a legacy of faithfulness. That was in a devotion the other day. That's why the answer is so readily available. And, I think of Charlie Kirk. I want to be known as being faithful. It's just courage for my faith. And I can't imagine a better legacy than that. So this has been in my heart for months. Character builds credibility, builds legacy. I don't know if you know who Louis L'Amour is. Louis L'Amour, French name, American author, Westerns and all that stuff. And a pastor buddy told me, so I've restarted the Sackets. And it's so filled with character And then, who your father was gave your family credibility. And even how he died, it was all a legacy that actually kind of, that they expected that of you. If your last name was Sackett, they're expecting greatness. If your last name was Graham, or if you wear the Christian above your name, the correct definition of that, there should be an expected thing, right? So that legacy that they don't even understand. It took me a long time to realize that my dad loved me, and if he could have done better, he would have. And then I was set free, and I enjoyed him before I lost him, right? I lost him to a motorcycle accident, doing what he loved. But that was a gift that happened, right? So that legacy, I would love for them to say, Dad had integrity. He was a man of integrity, which means a steadfast adherence to a strict moral or ethical code. That code was the Word of God, and he left us a legacy of faithfulness. And it wasn't easy, and he was honest about how sometimes it was all he could do to get from breakfast to dinner, but God showed up, and he was faithful, and he loved us. Like I wrote another book called How Do You Love a Fish? And it's a whole story about loving others according to their needs. But one of those things that I say to them, 7 things, and I put this in a book so that people could do this. They repeat after me. I love you. I love you. I'm proud of you. You're a good girl or boy. I love being your daddy. I thank God for you. I'm always here for you. I love you always and forever. And they say, no matter what, right? Why do I say that? Because they need to know that no matter what means no matter what, that the world is hunting them. And there's one phone they can call, 2, my wife and I, but I just messed up big time. But Dad said, no matter what, every night of my life. So maybe, just maybe, no matter what means no matter what. So I need that. Awesome. I need that to be like, I messed up, my dad's going to kill me, or I messed up, I need to call my dad. And then I said, you call me. Like your mom and I know how to get out of pits. You call me, we will get you out of this pit together.
That's awesome. Hey, Jimmy, thanks so much for being with us on today's edition.
Yeah, thank you guys. God bless you.
Hey, we want to thank Jimmy Graham for being with us today. His company called Able Shepherd. I love the explanation for that. It was just incredible. And he was so much fun. I loved all of the answers to the questions. He was fun.
The stories that he told, and some of them we heard before we started recording, but the stories that he told about how he was maybe just in a little bit of trouble.
That's why we could be friends, Jimmy.
Before he enlisted, to how really he's grown and how he met God and how he started just really grasping what it meant to be a leader and what it meant to be really a Christian leader, I think, above anything else. And I just think it was super important for him to share those stories with us, because all of us are facing battle. It doesn't matter if you're in the military or not in the military, you are a part of a spiritual war, and it's really important to be able to guard your mind and learn how to lead.
My favorite answer was, no, it's not like boot camp, but we're getting up a half hour early so we make sure we're to church on time. I bet you none of those kids are late. I can totally guarantee that. Great company, Able Shepherd. Check it out. Jimmy Graham's awesome. And we want to tell you again how much we appreciate each and every one of you that served in the military. We appreciate you, and we just, it's our freedom. We can do shows like this because of it. Now we want to tell you, go out and live an abundant life.